Hey guys, welcome to the definitive ranking of Link's Awakening. DX. Yeah, this seems familiar. I think I started a video with that same first sentence before.
Yep.
But this is the deluxe version of that video.
Yeah, this one is going to be more deluxe.
Because we are talking specifically about the Game Boy or Game Boy Color version of Link's Awakening DX.
Yeah.
We felt they were different enough that it warranted at least talking about them.
Yeah, though it's interesting then looking how it'll wind up. But
yeah,
that actually made making these rankings, just coming up with my rankings was actually kind of fun because one, I was thinking about it in context of the other Zelda games for one, and then two, obviously comparatively to the 2019 that we already covered. But then three, like since then, like any other game on the list, like my feelings about certain aspects of the games change all the time.
Right.
And so I've revisited Link's Awakening more 2019 since and had other things like be like, oh, I actually like this a little bit more, or like this sticks out to me here. So just my feelings on the core aspects of Link's Awakening as a whole have changed. So
right. You're right. And so I made my own rankings. I put what my thoughts were, and then afterwards I went back and looked at what I put for 2019, and then I made a couple tweaks.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I'm like, well, if I'd said that for that, I can't justify this. So
I had a little bit of that, but and then there were a few where I was like, no, you know what? Screw it. Like things change over time. So
right.
You know, if we somehow were ever cycling through this, all these games would change. You know.
Right. So I think we'll do stuff a little bit differently. We'll go through the categories here, but I think a lot of this is probably going to be more of a comparison between the two versions, don't you think?
For the most part, yeah. Pretty much all of them, yeah.
So when you think about the world of Link's Awakening, it's a great world. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think most of the things that I would say in this category, for example, I would basically say the same things about the original.
Right.
And I think a thing I said in the last video was that this version of, like, I think the remake does an amazing job with a lot of things, but the thing about the original that sticks with me is that there's a huge element of, like, nostalgia that's part of the game, and so that actually just always sticks out to me more when I think about the specific version that I played as a kid,
right? Which
was not the original, but the DX version, and so the world to me is just so much more. I just love it so much more. With that'll go into the art style and everything too, of just the classic graphics and the sound too. So.
Right, and talking about the art style with the world combined, sort of on the Game Boy, the game was in just boxes basically, whereas it was kind of like funny. Like playing the game on the Switch version, you can see over a screen.
Yeah, you're in like the signpost maze, and you're like, "Oh, Tail Cave is right there."
Yeah,
which is cool in itself too, actually. But it highlights a similar thing about the world, just in a different way, of like how small it is. But it's like I get the same feeling playing the 2019 version as I do like looking at a map of the original and going, oh, okay, yeah, that's weird how that all fits together.
Yeah, you don't really know those are next to each other until you actually see it in the map.
Yeah, so it's like the world is small, but then it kind of feels bigger because you're not thinking about what's there. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if I prefer either one. I think they both are a cool take on it, but
I ended up giving it a 4 because it's kind of I gave a 4 to the 2019 version as well.
Okay.
And I felt the overall, like the characters, the world, most of it's the same. And I like them.
I love this world and like its story and all the little quirky elements. You know, same thing I said in the last video of, you know, seeing all the Mario characters or the references to other Zelda games or even games I hadn't even heard of, with like Ralph or whatever, the Prince.
Yeah, Prince Richard.
Ralph. Yeah. Richard. Just all those like weird, wacky characters and stuff. So yeah, it's just a very important game to my childhood and everything. So I've always loved going back to that world.
And we talked about the art style. That's probably one of the most, I think, significant changes. Would you say from like the two versions?
Yeah,
because they look totally different.
Yeah, this is. So I think I gave it a higher rating than I think I went for, which I could probably give the remake a 5 if I didn't. But either way, this ties a little bit into our seasons video where I just like that style, like that specific style of pixel art. Of all the like pixel art styles in Zelda, I think those are my favorite. I don't know. I just love the like simplicity and everything's like inherently very cute, you know? And yeah, so this, I think they kind of push it in like the oracles a little bit more to like they get even more colorful and stuff because
they do, yeah.
They've had more time, I think, kind of with that technology or something where they're kind of retrofitting a pre-color game into color. But I still just love it. I just love those. The pixels and all that stuff.
Yeah. And it's just so so I gave this a 4. But I was talking about how I compared it to Link's Awakening 2018. I went back and looked at what my rating was for Oracle of Seasons, and I gave that a 4 as well.
Okay, so you're like, this is the same category. Okay,
yeah, kind of. Not as much official artwork for this game. Granted, there wasn't for Oracle of Seasons either. There is some like, I don't know if it's actually official artwork, but there's all the bosses. Yeah. There's like from that Susanna Works publication. I remember I got that and scanned that and put that online, but it has all the bosses, and I
do love all those old there's like old guides. I don't know if they're official either, right? But you can go online and find all this cool artwork from that era, and I just like I think I've said that in like all the late 80s, early 90s videos where the Zelda games are kind of interpreting these in a different form. I already love the pixel art, but then to see like these interpretations of it is always really cool. So, yeah, just love that whole era. And again, the look of the game kind of feeds more into the story for me, of like it making it a little bit more effective for me personally and my like history with the game.
Yeah, right, for sure. Okay,
so moving the story.
On. Let's talk about the story, and I'm going to lump in these next two, actually. Just the story and pacing and progression. Mainly because I feel like these are categories that I don't think there's a difference at all between the two versions.
Yeah. I
don't know if you felt that way. Yeah.
No, like I kind of already said like how this specific one just hits home for me a little bit harder. That's like a very personal thing. So I think I might have gone higher. I don't even know. This is like maybe top 3 to Zelda stories. Okay. Yeah, this is one of my favorite Zelda games. So, but yeah, so it's up there pretty high for me.
And they didn't like fundamentally. I don't think there's a single thing changed with the story. Like I don't even know if any text was changed. Maybe like stuff with
maybe little bits. I think there are like a couple wording things that might be different, but overall not really.
Yeah, I think Nostalgia Ghost says a few different things.
Oh yeah, stuff that's really not pertinent to like the overall story though. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's more or less the same. I mean, pacing and progression they did add. In the 2019 version, they added like Dompe's a new character, and he appears in random places, and the game kind of guides you like, oh, go check out this location.
I just love the way the game unfolds. It's very simplistic, but it's like it does a good job of being like, here's this little area you can explore, and then like hints and teases of other things, and then the world as you go it unfolds it just nicely where you can explore more but can't do everything. And until you can eventually do everything. And that is pretty consistent through the whole game, I think.
Yeah, it does a good job of opening the world. I mean, at the very beginning, before Tail Cave, you're without Rock's Feather and without the Power Bracelet, you can't get very far. But you have access to just the areas you need to go. It does a good job, though, especially after the second dungeon, where you suddenly have access to a lot more areas. Some of which you have to go, but other ones you don't have to. Right. So you can do exploration. You can find some little caves and some extra rupees.
Even in those, there's always like, here's stuff in here that you can't even do it yet.
Right.
But it's like right in the heart of the explorable area, so you have to like remember to come back there.
Yeah.
And it does a good job of that considering how like small scale the game is. Like it makes it feel like this world is really vast and unfolding, but it's all actually so tiny and interconnected, you know?
Like one example I like is after you beat Key Cavern and you get access to sort of the east side of Koholint where you can go to Animal Village, you can go to South Face Shrine and get the Face Key.
Oh, yeah.
Right there, before doing Dungeon 4 or 5 or any of that stuff.
Yeah, and it makes it feel like, oh, it's so open and stuff, but it's really, it's so tiny. It's not, yeah.
So,
yeah, all that stuff holds up, I think, really well.
So, in my opinion, the gameplay and combat is the biggest one that I feel that I changed.
Yeah.
Actually. I went back and gave this, I think I gave it a 2 in the original.
Oh, wow. I think I went 3.
But I jumped that all the way up to 4 here because I really like the controls of this game.
I like all that and the oracles also. I really love the feel of playing this game, yeah.
Something about jumping and hitting with Rock's Feather and using your sword and swiping.
Yeah, you're insanely, like, you jumping across this tiny little screen. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, and I love the combination of the weapons.
Yep.
You use the Pegasus boots and the Rock's Feather sometimes. Use the bow and bombs at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's so cool.
That ties more into the items and whatnot.
That's a lot of stuff that's present in the remake too. But it's just they intentionally kind of changed the physics of the game.
I feel like it doesn't like I don't like how the Pegasus boots feel in the new version. It's weird. Okay. You can't die. I don't know. I don't like it, and the jumping does not feel as satisfactory to me.
I think it's something I said in the video on that, but it's like I like that stuff. Like I appreciate what they're going for, and I don't dislike it, but I just always prefer playing this. So you know,
one thing about the jumping that I never noticed until my most recent playthrough, maybe it was just I unconsciously didn't. When you jump and use your sword in Link's Awakening DX, you jump and you just swipe this way. But in Link's Awakening 2018, when you jump, you don't swipe this way, you swipe this way.
Okay.
And what it does is it kind of nerfs it because you don't have a wide attack range. You have a very narrow attack range when you go this way. I think they did that on purpose, but
yeah. I want
to be overpowered.
I think there's some intention there especially with they do a good job of even with like the sound design of like the little thuds and all the stuff and the pitter patter of Link's feet to make it sound like you're a little tiny guy and you're in this little tiny world, and so it kind of is a way of conveying that because now you're not on this little screen. And so I appreciate that of like trying to like they want you to think about how small the world feels, but because it's inherent to the original. Yeah, but in that, it's like they're not like, I don't know, they're not as worried about that with you like jumping across the screen and stuff. They just want it to like feel good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's different, but I still appreciate both. But I prefer this.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's pretty excellent. The items. Well, moving on to the items and abilities, we both gave this a little bit lower score than most of the other ones.
It's maybe my lowest category. I actually like how the items again play back into like the progression of the game. You get this, and now you can do this and do this. But some of them are honestly a little underwhelming. You know, like getting the ability to jump in the first dungeon and then the second dungeon, like it's just picking stuff up. It's a little weak, and then that being an item later is
the two power bracelets.
But I do think
two shields.
I like the overall arsenal of like weapons you use though. Like most of them are like very satisfying to use. Like I love the hook shot is really fun in that game. Just any of those, even the magic rod that you don't use for very long.
You get it too late in the game. It's sort of like the magic wand in The Legend of Zelda, where it's like it has two uses really: fight the boss and I think one phase of Death Eye or the final nightmare.
It's one of those ones though that's like fun to mess around with afterwards in the overworld, just killing stuff. But
I think the highlight of the items is the boomerang because it's so.
It's so
oh my god! It's so
powerful.
overpowerful. It's so overpowered, and you can get it like, well, not super early in the game. You need to be able to. What do you need to get? Like, you need the hook shot, so you got to get through Catfish's Maw. So through 5 dungeons, after 5 dungeons, if you're doing the trading sequence as fast as possible, you can get the boomerang, and it really makes those last few dungeons super easy. I think you can kill Hynixes in 1 hit or 2 hits or something.
I couldn't go that low because I do like you mentioned it earlier. The combined uses of the items are fun. Makes me think actually if one thing that kind of stinks about them too is just only being able to equip 2 at a time.
Yes, that was an example. Yeah,
which if it had a similar control scheme to the new one in terms of how they've assigned things, like gameplay for me would probably be a 5.
Okay. I actually thought about that too, because I was thinking about, all right, the items, they're the same items, but I'm like, you know what? I like the DX boomerang a lot more.
Yeah.
I do. So I'm like, that's a memorable item. So I'm going to bump this up. But then I remembered what you just said. Well, you can only have 2 items equipped, and one of them is the sword. So it's like, God, you know what? Like, the amount of time, especially if you're like, I don't want to say speedrun, but if you're playing the game, like, you know what you're doing, you're playing quickly. There is so much menuing in this game that you don't even notice.
It becomes that, yeah.
Yeah, there's so much of it. Like, and just optimizing your menuing will save you 15 minutes in this game.
That was like a big thing when we did our Warfare.
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, you gotta have the right things equipped.
Yeah.
Which I don't think about when I just casually play the game.
Because when you casually play it, you might not always have, like, the Pegasus boots equipped.
But you're like, okay, it's fine. Switch, and then you don't really think about it.
You almost don't want to equip them because it's just like, I don't want a menu to put, because then you have to unmenu to put whatever other item on. Like, I always had the sword and boomerang out, but then, like, you always want to have Rock's Feather too, but you can't have those. Yeah,
that makes me wish, like, the remake. I really like the remake and stuff, but there should have been, like, after you beat it or something, a bonus mode that is just the original game, but with the buttons assigned.
Oh, so DX, but with you can equip more items.
Yeah. Like, that's all I needed, really. Or, like, take out the text that's like, wow, this is heavy, or whatever. Yeah. And then that's good. We're good otherwise.
All those new features of those compasses. Yeah. So, like, jumping into... I think we can lump the next couple, because these are also ones... I don't know if you have something specific to say.
Well, I do have something specific to say about the dungeons, because I said 4 last time, but this is a case of not comparing it to the last one, but just my feelings on the game overall. Like, if I could, I would probably give the remake 5 now too, because I actually love the dungeons of the game. Okay. And replaying them again, especially for when I did them for my dungeon series, and I was like, I love pretty much every one of these dungeons, and I love the way, again, they fit in, like, each one is a little bit more complicated than the last.
Right.
I love the way they, like, evolve throughout the game. It's not each one is better than the last. Some I don't like as much, but overall I was like, when I held each one individually under scrutiny, I was like, this is a sweet collection of dungeons.
Okay.
Like, even the worst ones fit really well in the game.
What are the worst ones?
I don't like Bottle Grotto as much.
Okay.
That one might be the worst one, but it, like, even that one is like, that's a fine dungeon, What
stands out to me is especially the last 2 dungeons, the overall, like, the size of them and the complexity of them, and, like, there are multiple ways to solve them in a way. Like, when you go to Eagle's Tower, you only need a certain number of keys, but you don't need to get all the keys. Yeah. Because you don't have to go in certain room.
I don't think you need any in Eagle's Tower, actually.
Do you not need any?
I don't think you need a single one.
Okay.
I think one of them, one of the locked bricks, I don't even understand what it does.
Oh, the one like, you can just hit the color blocks and just avoid it altogether?
There's another one, like, on the higher floor where I don't understand what it blocks.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but...
I know, like, when I used to play... I used to always, like, go to where the mirror, where you get the mirror shield is. But you just fall off on the right side. Yeah. And you fall on the higher platform. You go up, and there's a key there. Yeah. And I just assumed you needed that key. No. Yeah. I used to always get it instinctively. I think, isn't there, like, a lock when you go, like, up the stairs? I think it was, like, in the 3 of a Kind room or something. Or maybe the dungeon. So. It might be in the dungeon map room where you throw the horse heads or something.
I don't think there's a lock you have to do.
No, you do. In the third room of the dungeon.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. That was a weird one where they give you the key and they go.
Yeah. All right. So you have to get at least one key, but
the way like Turtle Rock unfolds is like, especially if you know like the secrets and stuff
there's
like
so
that.
many. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And there's even glitches in that where you can push blocks to the side that you're not supposed to. But even without that one bomb arrow, you can shoot a bomb arrow across the lava and blow up that one wall. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it totally changes the dungeon.
Oh, that's a big one.
But yeah, because I never go to the right side of that dungeon really. And where there's a wire and there's that room where all the floor breaks. There's the part where you go outside and you throw the bombs at the Dodongo snakes.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do that.
I know.
You don't have to do the whole left side of the dungeon. There's so many.
It's wild.
That you don't have
but
to
you will end up doing it if you're new,
Yeah, there's that underground period where you go and fight the guy with the... Who's the guy who throws the ball at you again?
Smasher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you even know Smashers in Turtle Rock?
Yeah.
I haven't fought him in a while, but that dungeon... Turtle Rock is sort of, I think I might have made references before. It's sort of like, it's the last dungeon, but it's more like a Ganon's Tower kind of dungeon. Because it's got you fight Hynix and you fight Rolling Bones and Smasher and Vire. Like, there's all these, the Dodongo snakes. There's all these, like, mini bosses that come back.
It's a really good, like, final dungeon for not actually being one.
Yeah. Well, it is, considering there is no final dungeon.
Yeah, that's right. Like, well, I mean, it's not like your proper, like, here's the end of the game final dungeon. You know? And I think Eagle's Tower is one of the best dungeons in the series, I think. And then there's some, I think a lot of people like Catfish's Maw because Master Stalfos is memorable, but I think that one and Angler's Tunnel, actually, after replaying them, like, oh, these are kind of unique in a way I didn't expect. Because one thing I noticed playing both of those in particular was in the lead up to getting the dungeon item, you actually pretty much see, like, the whole dungeon. You see almost every room. Okay. And you get a tour of the whole dungeon. Then you get the item, and it's about remembering all the rooms to go back to.
Right.
And I thought that is really cool that you actually...
Yeah, both of those are like that.
They're like, here's everywhere. And then it's like, now it's like, now you got to look at your map and like, okay, where's all the stuff I got to get and figure out how to get there. So even that I thought was really cool. Like, I guess you wouldn't normally think of that as like something fun. Well, maybe some people don't like backtracking, but yeah, I think it's really cool.
You know what, the game, especially the DX version, it moves so quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never, like, you're on screens for 2 seconds, like, sometimes. Like, you're just jumping across and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, so you gave it a 5. Like, do you think this is one of the best dungeons? Like, and
in fact, there's other games that we've already done that I also wish I could. I realize I haven't really given any 5s.
For dungeons. Oh.
I haven't. And there's some, like, I wish I could go back. Like, A Link to the Past actually is sick. I wish I've given a lot of 4s because I was like, is this really the best? And now I'm like, no, I should have done it. You know, I was like, it was too early to say. Right. And so after kind of reevaluating it, I'm like, yeah, this is maybe not the best collection of dungeons, but to me, it's up there. Yeah. I love them.
Okay. Do you want to touch on the enemies and bosses?
I think I might have actually gone lower. Okay. In this one, because I actually think most of the changes they made
with the bosses have been better.
With the boss made them kind of better, but I like the set of bosses and I like they all have, most of them have unique personality and stuff like that, but some of them just aren't very good to fight. Like we talked about, the Angler is.
Yeah, he's pretty pathetic. It's sad, actually.
I think of like Hothead I just stand in one spot and spam it. There's other cool ones.
The other ones are like Slime Eel is a unique boss, and
I like Slime Eel. That might be one of my favorites. Might be my favorite.
And in the Evil Eagles, it's a cool environment, nice.
Yeah, that one's like, I like that one better in the remake because you don't reset the fight. It's little stuff like that. I think Facade is funny, but I even like him a little bit better in the remake because there's
a lot more to it.
Bounce around the bombs and stuff, but yeah, they're all good. Like it's very simplistic and stuff, but yeah, not much to say other than like we did that video on the boss changes a long time ago. Just go watch that. It's like, yeah, they're a little bit better in the remake.
So let's talk about the side content, because this is something that you know, So in the DX version, they added obviously the color dungeon, and a lot of that carried over.
Oh yeah.
But this is like the side content in the 2019 version. They added a handful of things where they changed the fishing and they changed the trendy game. There's a lot more seashells. There's a couple bottles.
Yes.
And then the big one is there's that Dompe's dungeon, which I think we've said.
We've done videos and stuff.
I
don't
think
like it.
We don't like it at all.
Yeah.
But what they removed was the photographer.
Yes.
So
I went higher actually on this.
Okay.
They added the stuff they added like to the fishing and to the trendy game. I like that more because it gives you a little bit more to do with it. But there is some that the Dompe thing really kills it because it ties.
It really hurts it.
If it was its own thing, that would be fine. But the fact that you get like heart pieces and stuff from it, I don't like that. That's what kills it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said in this game, especially for the size of the game it is, in the simplicity of it. You know, it's a short game. Like, it's got the right amount of seashells for what it is, and you get the reward. It's like a nice set of rewards from it. Whereas in the remake, I feel like the way it distributes stuff from the seashells is actually I don't really like it. I feel like they could have done that better. Like, I think like they should have given you the tracker earlier, I think.
Oh, in the remake, right?
Because I get it so
get that
late.
at like 1 or 5 or something.
Yeah, it should be like one of the first things you get. But in this, I love just the seashells are simplistic. It's like the heart pieces in like A Link to the Past or something, or where there's not a lot going on, but it's scaled to this game appropriately. Then, like you said, the color dungeon is an awesome addition, and the photographs are fun. And that's all I really need, you know. It's not the best thing, it's not 5, but it's perfect for the game, I think.
Right. Like I think the extras they added in 2019 really bump it up. But the Dompe thing is like, eh. But I like that little mouse.
Yeah.
Is he a mouse? The photographer?
Yeah, he's a little mouse. Granted, they kept some of the scenes with like Marin or whatever, but
there's a cutscene where like you can go out by the beach.
Why wouldn't you have just kept that guy? Because you can take pictures on your Switch.
They could have made it funny too. Like the guy could have been like, "Yeah, I've been running this photography shop. It's kind of outdated, but I'm still trying to make it out here." Or something,
Yeah.
You know, we don't get most people. You know, they could have done something funny like that.
It's really silly to me. Yeah.
Like they could have put Dompe's shop like just next to it or somewhere else in the map, anywhere. Like,
granted, this doesn't have a hero mode, but I guess it doesn't really need a hero mode. But
it's a tough game.
Yeah.
The first time through, it's a tough game. Yeah, that's
so
for sure.
Maybe it could be even. Maybe I would bump up the remake too, but I don't know. I think it's very appropriate for this game.
It's worth noting that up until Link's Awakening, I mean, there was only 3 Zelda games before, and collectibles prior to this and side content was kind of limited.
Yeah.
Like when you think of A Link to the Past, there's a lot of optional items,
Which are sweet,
and 24 heart pieces. That was like the collectibles. This is the first one that introduced like the trading sequence. It was the first game with the more elaborate trading sequence, I should say.
You still have the heart pieces.
You still have the heart pieces.
You also have like a collectible
and the seashells, yeah, and a mini dungeon. So it was like this was the first.
It kind of set the standard for a lot of that stuff for a while,
right? Yeah,
yeah, pretty good in that regard. I guess the boomerang is optional too.
Of course,
so.
yeah.
The trading sequence, I guess, isn't really optional, actually.
Yeah, part of it is. The boomerang just is the last step that's not.
That's actually something I forgot where I wanted to mention it, the pacing and progression maybe, but like I like actually that the end of the game is the culmination of all the dungeons and everything. You've collected all the instruments, but it's also kind of the culmination of the trading sequence, which outside of the dungeons has had you traveling around the world and stuff. So it really ties the whole game together that you have to collect all the instruments and do all the explore the overworld, and then it's like then you can go to the end.
Right, because if you don't know like the exact path, you have to get the magnifying lens to see the path through the windfish's egg. So you're right.
Basically the end of the trading sequence.
Yeah, it is, because the only other item is the boomerang, and that's loosely connected with the trading sequence. I guess.
That's like the optional part of it.
Yeah,
it's cool.
So I guess maybe the trading sequence is not totally extra, but let's talk about the music and the sound. So I went back and looked, and I gave this a 4 in the remake, and I gave it a 4 here as well.
Yeah,
it is limited by the hardware a little bit, but I think we talked about this. This was the first game where each dungeon had its own theme.
Mm-hmm.
I think that matters, especially some of those later dungeons, even in the 8-bit or whatever, however many bits this is, if that's the right term. But the music, it's very distinctive. I like those the Eagles Tower theme and Turtle Rock theme, and Face Shrine and Eagles Tower in particular stand out to me. They're very kind of gloomy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a word, but
it's like I think the themes themselves get kind of darker as the games go on.
They do.
It's very thematic with the game itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
I actually, I recently was on our staff member Corey as a podcast, Player Power podcast, and we did a tier ranking of all the soundtracks, and I pushed for. We were kind of talking about them together. It was like up for interpretation, but I actually pushed for this to be like in the top tier. But then I looked back and I gave the remake a 4.
Mm-hmm.
But even now I'm like, maybe it should be 5. I think this is one of the best soundtracks for me, tying back into the story of just what we just mentioned with the dungeons, but in a lot of ways, the way it gets its whole mood and vibe across it's really effective. Even with the old game and just the 8-bit or whatever sound, it's very moody.
It is, yeah. And there's still some, like, the Tall Heights theme is still...
It's iconic, yeah.
I actually think the Game Boy version is more iconic than the...
Okay.
Just something about the...
Yeah.
You hum along to it and sing along to it.
There's some better songs than the original. There's some that are better, yeah. I really like how the remake did it, too, so...
Yeah,
maybe I should have gone 5.
No, the community gave music 4.1, but I think it's
music is always high.
Music has always been one of the highest categories, if not the highest category for the majority of games. But so let's see how it ended up shaking out here. The community gave it a 3.7. The staff gave it a 3.7. I gave it a 3.7. But
I love this game.
Yeah,
so this is one of my This could, on certain days, this could be my favorite game, so...
Okay.
It's in the top of my list, but as you can see, I still think it's it's just above DX, or the remakes. DX is just above it, so
yeah. Right, yeah, like, it's fun to look at, so comparatively, yeah, you have DX as your third favorite Zelda game now, with Link's Awakening 2019 version being right underneath it. I similarly had them... exactly had them in the same spots as you as well, where I have the DX version marginally ahead of 2019.
Yeah.
Similarly, the staff had both of them at 3.7, but going to I think the third decimal point, Link's Awakening 2019 barely was higher. Mm-hmm. The community is the only one that they're not clustered together.
But they're very close still. If A Link Between Worlds wasn't there, it'd be.
You know what? Link's Awakening DX, Minish Cap, and Skyward Sword I was looking at are all like very, very like. If like 3 of you out there would have voted lower, Link's Awakening DX would have jumped all the way below Skyward Sword. Like they're that close.
Wow.
But they by the decimal points, Link's Awakening DX was up there.
It's interesting because we talk about how they're different. They're different enough, but yet comparably they're actually very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
I think what we've seen. I think the remake does a good job of capturing pretty much most of what's great about the original, and then there's just the little tweaks or something that. It depends on who you are and how you feel. But overall, I think it's still very faithful to the original in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So even though I'll prefer the original, I'll stick up for the remake for sure.
Yeah. They're fun. These both versions of Link's Awakening are still uniquely playable today.
Yes, that's kind of what's cool about it actually, is because at the marathon we had separate runs of it, and because of how it plays, it becomes a totally different thing.
And also in depending on when you're watching this video, but at the end of 2021 they're coming out with the Zelda Game Watch. What is that calling it?
I think so, yeah.
Anniversary little mini thing.
With the original on it.
It has 3 games: The Legend of Zelda: Adventure of Link, and Link's Awakening. Like
not DX.
Not even DX, and not A Link to the Past, but Link's Awakening.
It makes sense. I'm still very excited about that because I don't know. There's, like I've mentioned before, there's something about the playing the traditional original game that it appeals to me. It makes me wonder. Like I had the original for a brief period of time, but it makes me wonder if I can make myself nostalgic about a version of it that I didn't actually even really play. Maybe I'll play it and be like, no, you gotta have the green version. That's the way to go. None of this color. We don't need color.
I'm not there. I don't go back to that. I've actually only played Link's Awakening for the Game Boy a select few times. I think I might have only beaten it once or something, but I've played the DX version.
Let's do another ranking.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this month. But for the month of September, we got some might call it a heavy hitter. I think.
Yeah, I think I think I've played this game.
Yeah, it's kind of an older one. Although they did remake, it was one of those DS remakes. I think we're doing Ocarina.
I think it's Ocarina.
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, what's that? I don't know what that's about. But.
Ocarina of Time or Ocarina of Time 3D, whichever is your cup of tea. Those ones we're not going to distinguish. That's
close enough.
Yeah. So we're doing that for the month of September. So we have our poll in the description where you can vote. And I wonder, I'm looking at this between myself, you, me, the staff, and community. We've got 3 different games at the number 1 spot. And I wonder if any of those are going to be supplanted here with this month.
Maybe.
We will see.
I don't know.
I kind of hope that the community keeps TP at the top.
Yeah.
And I want the staff. I think the staff might. I think Ocarina is going to get to my prediction. Bold prediction here is I think staff is going to put Ocarina at the top. But I don't know if yours or eyes are going to change though.
I think so.
We'll see though.
It'll be up there though. It'll be up in it.
We'll see. I want to see 4 categories with 4 different people at the top, but we'll see. That's what the machine is for, and the machine doesn't lie.
No.
So, thanks for watching, guys, and join us next month for some Ocarina of Time 3D.